Get your films on with the Blurs.
Once an idea has taken hold of the brain, it's almost impossible to eradicate.
Unpacking movies has never been more spot on, woke, fire, and just plain lit.
They are lit all the time.
So if you're unsure whether or not to plop down some cash for a film, check out the Blurs.
When a man with a 45 meets a man with a rifle, the man with a pistol is a dead man.
Brondo's got what plants crave.
It's got electrolyte.
You really only need to hang mean bastards. But mean bastards, you need to hang.
Don't say you weren't warned. Ridiculous. Here's Brandon and Jeff.
Hello and welcome to yet another episode of The Film Blurs. I am Jeff Stewart, a.k.a. Uncle Jeffrey, and I'm joined here as always with my friend and co-host.
Hey, it's Brandon Norwood, a.k.a. the protagonist. Let's get right into it because this got to go up quick. You start. Before we get into Captain America Brave New World, I guess because we're going to talk about this at length, I'll give a breakdown of the plot real quick. Movie opens with the Serpent Society having a MacGuffin canister. Captain America, Falcon, and the military come in, swoop in, get the canister, apprehend the Serpent Society. Ross is now president. Thunderbolt Ross is like, come to the White House. Sam invites Isaiah and Falcon. They go there and an assassination attempt is made on Ross by Isaiah. So that starts a whole investigation because we know Isaiah wouldn't just start shooting. You go ahead and start off with what you have to say.
I mean, I'll just bounce off of everything you have to say, but I have conflicting feelings on this movie, right? It is certainly not Black Panther. It is certainly not the old, it's not Civil War. It's absolutely just fine. My expectations were, I would say, not low, but guarded going into it, especially hearing that there were extensive reshoots. And, you look at the credits, there's 6 writers on the thing. And you can definitely tell where the seams are. You can tell where the 6 writers were taking a crack at it. You can feel where there were reshoots. But all in all, I was entertained enough. It is by far not the worst Marvel movie. I wish for the Black Captain America movie coming out Black History Month, I wish it were better.
So my expectations for this were in the toilet, like absolutely. It was like I just took a shit, hit the plunger, and watching it circle the bowl. Just because,
yeah.
When all these reports came out about the rewrites and the reshoots, I got the first thing that came to my mind was Multiverse of Madness, because that's the one where they basically reshot and rewrote the entire fucking movie. Apparently, and during lockdown, even they rewrote the entire movie. Benedict Cumberbatch has said multiple times, I've seen 30 different scripts for that movie, and we were shooting without even a finished script. And you can tell. This shit here is fine. Like, I don't hate it. I don't love it. It is much better than I anticipated it to be. With that said, here's the problem. It falls into this, and I've talked with other people about this too who've seen it. It falls into the same trap as the Marvels in that you can see what they set out to make, and then you see the studio, and the studio is basically Kevin, because Nate Moore, he's one of the big producers at Marvel. He handles like Black Panther and all like the minority characters. He's leaving. Like once Black Panther 3 is out, he's gone. So that's kind of worrisome.
Right.
Like this I don't know. This to me is like the first Captain America. I like it better than the first Captain America in that, like, the first Captain America, it was just like, oh, let's introduce Steve Rogers so we could get him in the Avengers, because that movie literally came out less than a year before Avengers, and the post-credit scene for that movie was literally a trailer for Avengers. Yeah, this feels like, again, hey, we got to get the new Captain America out so we could set this shit up for the next two Avengers movies.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely messy, especially the first 15
Yeah,
minutes.
that opening
Uh,
compound sequence between the action and the dialogue, I was just like, okay, all right, well, you know,
it wasn't even the compound for me. It was before that. It was because the first shot of the movie is Thunderbolt Ross talking to an audience about what he plans to do under his presidency, and then he goes to a pundit on a CNN fucking light version talking about how uh, it's always been Steve. It's always been Thunderbolt Ross versus the new Captain America because you remember the first Captain America, like this Sam Wilson was put in jail, was put in the raft in, in the other movies, right? So there's already this
yeah,
friction
because
right
I
there.
remember
But
before you finish your thought, I remember saying this on an earlier
mm,
episode, or no, it was off mic. We were talking. I was just like,
mm,
why would he work for Thunderbolt Ross after all the shit they've done? And you were like, well, we don't know. I'm like, nah, nigga, fuck that. Like, after all the shit they went through, fuck that. And I am glad the first thing Joaquin, who's the new Falcon, and what's my man's name? Isaiah say, and even
eh,
Sam says it, is like, why the fuck would we work for you, bro? Like, Sam went there as a courtesy because it's the president of the United States. And then he says, oh yeah, work for me. He's like, why would I work for you after everything that we've been through? Like, yo, you killed the Avengers.
right,
This is
right,
my problem with that, is one of the many discrepancies in the movie, which we'll get into. So finish your thought.
yeah, yeah. Like so, and then you go from Thunderbolt Ross to Sam watching the press conference or whatever like that in a bar, and then it just cuts abruptly to who we'll find out is the main villain of the movie. It felt like tacked on. It felt like someone didn't understand what's going on, and someone wanted to make the new Captain America relatable, so they threw all this shit in there. And this is before the credits even roll, and it just felt like it felt sloppy.
One of the sloppiness extends to that dialogue, which is in the beginning when Sam's going through and taking out the guard. You have fucking Joaquin basically giving a recap of Falcon and the Winter Soldier, being like, well, he can do that because he got his suit from the Wakandans and it has vibranium in it. And I'm just like, guys, there's there's a better way to deliver this dialogue, because
Right.
I understand not everybody's gonna watch Falcon and the Winter Soldier coming into this motherfucker. Some people are just gonna go straight from Endgame to this, and fine, you can, but there's better ways to deliver exposition. And there's so much exposition in that first 15 minutes where I'm just like, this is real fucking sloppy, y'all. It felt like
Right.
previously on.
And going back to that, the first 15 minutes, the Serpent Society is so unceremoniously
Yeah,
introduced, right? We're just supposed to assume, like, we're supposed to know who the Serpent Society is. Why are they a threat? Like, what are they all about? Even in Winter Soldier, you know, uh, they explained who was, you know, hijacking that ship in the first
right.
15
They're
minutes of the
terrorists.
movie, right, but they laid out, like, they laid out the players, and they laid out uh their motives and shit like that. This is just like standard basic bitch bad guys.
So, Serpent Society, because I know Jeff's not really well versed in the comics of Sam Wilson. And in the comics, Serpent Society are his main villains, and Sidewinder is the leader of the Serpent Society. They're literally people dressed as snakes, and they have a whole corporation, and that's how, like, they can do evil shit, because people are like, well, fuck, we're funding terrorism, but also they bring us too much money. That's why he has such a hard time taking them down. And this, like, we only meet two. The Serpent Society has 6 members. We only meet 2 of them, which is Sidewinder, who's the leader, played by Giancarlo Esposito, and then the big dude who I can't fucking.
They don't
Okay,
even
so
name. They don't even name
okay,
him.
all right.
He just shows up.
So yeah, like clearly Serpent Society is set up for the next Captain America movie. That's the other problem with this movie. It's doing too much and too little at the same time. So it is a sequel to the Hulk. It's a sequel to Endgame. It's another Captain America movie. And it also has to, since Bob Iger refuses to make another Eternals movie, that's not Kevin, that's Bob Iger.
Right.
No, they have to start tying up the loose ends with Eternals. And the thing is too, because they gave, apparently my brother told me this when I talked to him last night. They're like, yeah, I saw one of the TV commercials and they straight up give away in the commercials that Timu Island is adamantium. I'm like, oh, so if you've seen all the trailers
Right.
and all the TV spots, you know all the secrets of the movie. Like, there's nothing. And the thing is, walking out of this, I'm like, there ain't really nothing to spoil.
Nothing at all. Because we
Right,
know
and that
about
should
Red
have.
Hulk.
And watching the movie, the
right?
way it plays out, I'm like, y'all should have kept this out of the fucking
That-
marketing. Like, did it? I won't ding it, just because again, I watch one trailer and then I'm done. But like, yeah, y'all should have hush that.
Right. So I see both sides of it, right? So I get you're trying to sell this movie to the general public the best way you can. And yeah, fucking put Red Hulk in it. But also it really does not have the impact that they wanted, because the whole entire movie you're waiting for, all right, when does Red Hulk show
Yeah.
up?
Well, that wasn't my thing, because I did like the conspiracy. Like they're trying to, because they specifically said they're trying to take it back to the Winter Soldier, where the Winter Soldier was a conspiracy paranoid thriller. This is also trying that. The problem with that is I like Leader as a villain, but Leader's plan is so convoluted and has too many parts that I'm just like, well, this doesn't even work as a conspiracy political thriller. And honestly, the best parts of the movie have nothing to do with the super heroics for me. For me, it's Sam and Ross going at it politically, because their political ideologies are so different. And I was just like, the movie, it's also the problem with this fucking movie. The movie kind of dances around it. You know what I mean? Like, as soon as it gets very interesting politically, you could feel them pulling back. And I'm just like, you guys
Right.
gotta
And
really
that's
fucking go for it. I don't really care what side you lean on, if it's leftist, centrist, or right. You guys really got to lean into what you're trying to say, because now this feels like you're playing it safe, and it's fucking up your movie.
it the movie is topical, but it's only topical because this is the shit, like the ideologies and everything like going on are things we've been dealing with since the inception of the country. So that's why it feels topical. But yeah, like you said, they don't lean into anything.
Let me say also, the problem with the politics is, like, and I was talking about this with somebody else last night. You know, right now we're just under fascists. So like, there is red fascists and blue fascists, because not for nothing, under Biden we watched 2 genocides in 2 different countries and sat back and did fucking nothing about it. So it's not even like I can say like the Democrats are fucking fully innocent of this. And somebody said, he told me this, they're like, thinking about this movie, I was like, I don't care if Trump is president for the next 30 years or if we get somebody after him, nothing's going to change until we all acknowledge that we're just switching between fascists who we can never not only get our own homeland policies right, but we can't even help our allies overseas. And that kind of extends to this movie, where I'm just like, yeah, you guys can't really reinvent the wheel until you guys really hammer down what you're trying to say here.
Right. And the geopolitical stuff in here, it doesn't feel earned because one of the big set pieces, which is actually my favorite set piece in the whole entire thing, has to do with a showdown between United States Navy and the Japanese Navy. But like the breakdown in diplomacy, it just feels dumb.
It, yeah, like I get, like there's a better way Leader could have manipulated this whole, like he's basically trying to start World War III with, because now all these nations are now that Timu Island has a new source, which is adamantium. It's another info dump. See, this info dump was done well because they disguised it as a summit. It's being delivered really
Right.
well by General Ross, I meant President Ross. So it's basically him giving a speech onto why we need world peace and we can all come together and share this resource. And I'm like, okay, cool. So that means he even says, he's like, yo, fuck vibranium. We don't even need Wakanda anymore. We got this shit. This shit is 10 times more stronger. And I'm like, oh, cool. So then all that shit in Black Panther 2 we could throw to the garbage because the political,
to the wind.
Again, the political machinations in Black Panther 2 weren't really there. They were half baked. Yeah, like I was like, all right, cool. This is how you do an info dump. Like, yeah, they're trying, like Leader's trying to start a world war because one of Ross's legacy that he wants to be behind is I created world peace because we're all gonna share this resources. But you know, the adamantium, honestly, it's only there to set up X-Men.
Right, exactly. And I saw the trailer that your brother was talking about, and I was pissed. Right, it wasn't even a trailer. It was on
they
TV.
gave it away in a TV spot. It was my brother and a couple other people told me like, yo, they give away something pretty big in a TV spot. I was like, I haven't seen it, so I can't tell you.
Yeah, but yeah, it's only the adamantium is only, like you said, only introduced for X-Men, and it is the cause of the various showdowns is how Serpent Society gets involved, but it's Leader doesn't even want the adamantium.
Yeah, he just wants to be freed from prison, and I'm just like, you know.
But dude, you just walked out. You could walk out of prison.
Okay, yeah, because once they go to his bunker, which is its own little cell, like he's walking around free, like he's opening the prison doors and shit.
Right.
And I'm like, yeah, the smartest man in the world wouldn't be imprisoned. My biggest problem here, instead of having Captain America be in this motherfucker, should have been Hulk. This should have been a Hulk movie. Yeah. Also, instead of having Red Hulk be in this and being the guy that Sam fights, they really should have had him fight Leader. Because not for nothing, in the comics, besides being one of the smartest people, he's like this in the Marvel universe, he's the second smartest being. You know who the first smartest is? Nope.
Reed Richards.
Well, okay, so I take it back.
Oh.
Reed Richards is Reed Richards is the third smartest. The first smartest person in the Marvel universe is Doctor Doom. So you got Doctor Doom, right. Then it's Leader, then it's Reed, and then it's Amadeus Cho, and then Riri Williams. Those are your 5 smartest people. Leader's powers also, he has telepathy and he could do telekinesis shit. I probably should have kept that for this movie. And Sam could have easily fought Leader.
And you know, him having telepathy would have worked better for me than how he controls people.
It's Winter Soldier Part 2. And that's my other problem with this is the continuity in this fucking universe. It feels so lazy because you can't fucking have the Winter Soldier. We all know about the Winter Soldier and how they were brainwashing super soldiers, and everybody knows Isaiah Bradley is a super soldier. So when that motherfucker's like, yo, I don't remember, first thing everybody should be saying is like, oh, well, this motherfucker's brainwashed. Let's, and they're like, no, he's guilty. I'm like, but you guys even say there's 5 fucking shooters, including Isaiah.
Right.
So there's 4 other people who were making an attack, and y'all don't stand to think like there's no way 4 people could just sneak into the White House for an assassination attempt.
Right. And 2 of them had no
Yeah.
background as terrorists, right? And and that's another info dump. But yeah, I totally agree with what you said, and I thought that is like, yeah, the first thing my mind would have went to is, well, that's some Winter Soldier shit, right? Like someone brainwashed somebody, but automatically is like, there's this Negro shit. This Negro went crazy.
It's little things like that. Like I forget the point I was gonna make in continuity earlier, but one thing I want to talk about real quick before I get back into the movie is Bucky, because Bucky's in this, and I don't really care if this is a spoiler or not. This scene, first off, makes no sense because one, Sam's having doubts about being Captain America, and I'm just like, nigga, we literally watched 6 hours of you dealing with this shit. And now you got to wrestle with this again for the next 10 minutes. Number one. Number two, Bucky is running for U.S. Senator. He comes in wearing a suit with an American flag on the lapel. And I'm like, what? There's no hinting in any of his previous appearances that he has any machinations politically. I was just like, this is some fucking lazy and nonsensical writing to keep him out of this movie. Like there's something missing.
Yeah, right. So I get why they put Bucky in there, and I didn't mind the scene, the exchange between them in the scene. It was fine, and I like Bucky and Sam together.
And that's
I really
that's the
do.
problem though. That's my main problem with this is like that is you could have said like, yo, Bucky is on a mission where he's like, yeah, I took a time out to come and talk to you real quick and just help you out, and then I got to go back to this mission.
Right.
And instead, it's like, no, I'm running for U.S. I'm like, I don't care if he's running for U.S. Senator or not. This motherfucker, he would drop everything to help Sam out.
Yes, at that, and I had to ask you because you read the comics. I had to ask you, was like, does Bucky become a senator in the fucking comics? You're just like, no, and the way they just kind of casually drop that information as he's leaving the room, it's so fucking.
What really hurts is when he first turns around and sees them. He's like, man, I gotta admit, I hate to admit this, but I'm glad to see you. And they give each other a hug. It's like, damn, bro, like this is the movie here. And then when they shake hands when he leaves, and Buck just says, "Look, I love you, man." And I'm just like, and Sam goes, "Thank you." That hurts. I was just like, that. We watched 6 hours of watching these two bond because it's always Cap and Bucky's missing. And I like Joaquin as I like Danny Ramirez a lot because he's been in a lot of movies. A lot of y'all gonna know him from Top Gun Maverick. I like him as Joaquin as the new Falcon. However, he is in here from the jump, like as the secondary lead, and I'm just like, y'all needed to have him in Falcon and the Winter Soldier more to really make this work, because as is now, I'm just like, sure, because I literally rewatched Winter Soldier before this movie, the night before, and watching it, the way they introduced Sam in the first scene where he's just jogging through, him and Cap don't know each other, but then they get to know each other, like, hey, like, friendly exchange, and then he's like, hey man, if you want to make me look cool, yo, come down to the VA. He comes down to the VA office, and he's like, this is what you do? You help people like this? He's like, yeah. And like, when shit hits the fan, the only person he can trust is Sam, because Sam's a good dude. We needed more of Joaquin. You can't just, you have to literally introduce the character instead of just throwing him in and saying like, yo, here's the new Falcon. And I'm like, that's not the character's fault. That is not Danny Ramirez's fault. That's the writing, because he just makes a cameo in Falcon and the Winter Soldier in basically the first episode and episode 4.
And you mentioned Winter Soldier, and I think, and I feel sorry for Brave New World, because it has to live up to that legacy, right? Because Winter Soldier is one of the
Yeah,
best Marvel
it's
movies.
the second best. Like
right?
as far as top Marvel movies, Black Panther's number 1, Winter Soldier's number 2, and then number 3
Right.
would be one of the Avengers movies. I haven't really thought about it like that, but my top 2 are Black Panther and then Winter Soldier, because first and foremost, those are movies. Like watching Winter Soldier again, I was like, yeah, this is just first and foremost a movie. Like, yeah, it does have bigger implications for the universe, but as a movie on its own, it's amazing. And I think the problem here with
Right.
this is none of this really has any weight to it like Winter Soldier did, or even Civil War. And I have mad problems with Civil War.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's got to live up to that legacy, and also it's not nearly as smart. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah,
Like it's
yeah.
not nearly as it's the dialogue is shoddy. Like the
I mean,
personal
I'm not going to hold you.
interactions.
The dialogue's it's a little rough, not as rough as here, but it's a little rough
Right.
in Winter Soldier. It's the problem with Marvel, man.
Yeah. But like the tone of the interactions between people even changes throughout this movie, right? It's it, when they're in the limo driving, right? That you know, if it was written better, that would have been a
Ye-
great scene. But in this movie, it seems like it's
Yeah, because that's
forced.
the only time they speak in black.
Right. Yeah. That in the training
Man,
sequence.
2 needle drops back to back, and both of them clash with each other. Like when they go to the gym, they're playing MOP's Annie Up, which I thought was funny to hear that in a fucking Disney movie. And then once they start
Right.
training, cuts. I mean, literally seconds before they stop that needle drop, then the next one starts, and it's Tame Impala's Elephant. And I'm like, damn, bro, these are polar opposites to have within seconds of each other, and it's corny.
Yeah. I was about to something was on my mind. I totally fucking forgot about it, but it'll come back to me. Uh, a- and it feels like we're beating up on this thing. It's not that. It's that I for one of the very few black superheroes, right? I like I wanted more. Like I wanted fucking the black Captain
Um,
America.
there's stuff in here that you can completely cut the fuck out. Like Serpent
Oh yeah,
Society,
100%.
you can completely cut them the fuck out. God bless her. What's her name? Shira Haas. She plays a character from the comics. I can't. I'm not familiar with the character. I don't know. There's a whole controversy because the character is Israeli and all this shit, and they had to like really scrub that shit clean. God bless her. Her character could be fucking gone too, or that could have just been Bucky.
Right.
Like her character could have been Bucky, or
Yeah.
and then like you asked me, you're like the Black Secret Service lady. Was she in anything before this? And I was like, no, no. And
Right.
her and Sam are like best friends, and I'm just like, okay, you could cut her the fuck
Right.
out too because she has a lot of scenes and a lot of dialogue, and I'm just like, get rid of them too.
And we're saying that all of these things can be cut, not because they were badly acted or badly written. It's just that they don't add to the story at all, right? Giancarlo is wasted in this.
Yeah.
Like I I would really like. I'm kind of mad at the Serpent Society stuff, right? Because if this is supposed to be Captain America's, Sam Wilson's biggest foes, right? I give them more gravitas, right? They should have had
Yeah,
their own
exactly.
fucking
Because
movie.
the one thing I was excited for when they first announced Phase 3, to keep it a secret, because the first movie of Phase 3 was Civil War. And to keep it a secret because they know if they said Civil War right at the top of the shit, then nobody else would care about the rest of the slate. So when they first announced Captain America,
Right.
it was Captain America, the Serpent Society. And everybody still went crazy anyway because they're like, holy shit, the Serpent Society. That's what I thought this movie was going to be called until it was called New World Order. And then they had to change that because shit sucks to Brave New World. I hope that's the next movie is Captain
Right.
America, the Serpent Society. Like, Y'all introduced them now, but like have them be the villains. And I'll be real, the best scene in the movie to me, besides the shit with Harrison Ford and Anthony Mackie, and I hope them two work together in something much better because they have really great chemistry. And I would just watch them
Right.
two act against each other for 2 hours on end. With that said, the second best, like the best action sequence in the movie involves Giancarlo, where Sam is ambushed and it's just Giancarlo trying to take him out. Because that was the only one that had some weight to it, and I could feel it. You know what I'm saying? Like watching Sam literally
Right.
run
No,
around a car in circles. I was like, yeah, I would do that shit too. Like I know it seems Looney Tune-ish, but that's exactly how it would go in real life. Like I would run around a car too to avoid getting shot at.
yeah, no, there were definitely stakes in here because there's no armor, there's no wings. It's and Sam is
And
getting
that's what
fucked
I'll
up,
say. So that's the one
right?
thing I love about this movie is like it shows you like, yo, one thing I love is like we finally got a human being to be a
Right.
hero in this. Like he has no powers, no nothing to rely on. Uh he's a man and he has to reckon with the fact that he's not a super soldier. He doesn't have any sort of powers. He's just a dude. And now this dude has to fight all these otherworldly forces, including a Red Hulk. He's just a guy.
Right. And I will say this. I love how like how Sam handles
Yeah.
combat, right? I love the use of the wings, the shield. I like the new outfit.
Which
I like the
one?
new
The blue
the
one?
black one.
Yeah, I mean, because he
The
still
blue
has
one.
the
Yeah.
white
Like I
one, but
like
it's refined. Because the one at the Falcon and the
right.
Winter Soldier, that's straight from the comics. And they asked him, like, why don't you have the cowl? And Anthony Mackie's like, I'm never putting that shit back on. And he's like, y'all don't understand. After we finished shooting that last episode where I had to wear that suit, I was in my head and my neck was in pain for about a week afterwards. And before they started shooting,
Yeah.
he told them, like, yo, you guys gotta get rid of the cowl.
Well, that's fair. That's fair. Oh, I remember what I was going to say. Uh, I think this movie has the most curse words in any Marvel movie because Sam says
I
shit
mean, they
a
curse a
lot.
lot in Guardians. I mean, Guardians, they say fuck, man. Open the
Like I
fucking
see,
door.
and we've had this conversation before. Guardians is just such next level that I kind of forget that it's Marvel, right? I kind of forget that it falls in
Yeah, because
with
every
this
time I talk
universe.
about this shit, I keep saying like, yeah, nothing's been hitting since Endgame, and people are like, wait, what about Guardians 3? And I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot about Guardians 3. It's just because to me, Guardians 3, I keep thinking that happened before Endgame, and that's the and how bad is that when that movie came out? Now we're coming up 2 years ago because it came out in 2023, and I'm still thinking that shit was like pre pre Endgame because everything post Endgame has been like decent at best. Like I'll be real with you, Falcon and the Winter
Right.
Soldier, much better than this shit.
Yeah. I don't hate this. This is absolutely fine. I'm not going to tell people not to watch it. It's in no way, shape, form, or fashion as bad as
They
Multiverse of
really,
Madness.
first and foremost, they really need to start trusting the people they hire to make this shit. Number one. Number two, I'm praying to you guys. I'm praying because Chad was the fight coordinator on Winter Soldier. Y'all need to find another fight coordinator because the fights in this shit, I like. I'm sorry. It was just watching things happen. It was like bright lights to me.
I li- and like you thought the Giancarlo Anthony Mackie fight was the best set piece. I will give that's my second favorite set piece, but I really enjoyed the dog fight scene.
And see, that's my
Like
third problem
I
right
like
here, which I'm gonna get to. Um, y'all got to really start refining this CGI, and this goes across the entire industry because now the entire industry is taking a page out of Marvel, which is, and I've talked about this with you yesterday. The problem is they shoot these movies overlit because they half of these movies are finished in post. and they have to make the CGI match the lighting. But then it doesn't help that you can tell because you overlit it that the whole shit looks like CG. So like watching that dogfighting sequence, I'm watching it, I'm just like, Anthony Mackie has almost a floating head whenever the helmet came off, because the helmet comes off because of the
Right.
Wakandan technology, so it could come off and come on at will, just like T'Challa's Black Panther suit. And watching it, I'm just like, okay, everything is CG. Like it looks like his suit is CG. The background and even Timu, when you see him in the background, is CG. Like when they run out on the ship deck and they're looking up, the only thing real in that shot is Danny Ramirez and
Are the
Anthony
people.
Mackie. And I'm just like,
Yeah.
even the jets when they fly overhead, I'm like, damn, y'all, like it's the Marvel. And Marvel is the one who pioneered this, the Marvel visual sludge, where it looks like shit.
Right, because these VFX teams only have X amount of months to finish the shit, so there's no
Well,
taking their time,
if you think
right?
about the movies where the CG looks great, it's because like let's take Pacific Rim or the Dune movies, because Dune has a lot of CGI. You could tell, but it looks good, and it looks good enough where it blends into what they were doing, and you're like, oh, that almost looks real. It's because one, they light it like a real movie, and two, they tell their CG people like months ahead of time, like, hey, here's the storyboard concept. This is the design we want. Can you give us this? And they don't change it. Because that's the problem with Marvel, is they fucking change it till the last fucking minute. And that's why these people are so tired and are revolting, is because they're making changes up until the last point. And this is across all these Marvel
Right, and
movies.
yeah, that's exactly the point I was going to make. Like, if you have reshoots going up until like 3 months before release, how is the VFX team expected to make it look halfway decent, right?
This is not going to help things. Look, here, that's a discrepancy. Like, yeah, the continuity that I was talking beforehand. Sam Wilson straight up says, like, to Thunderbolt Ross, you signing this Sokovia Accords killed the Avengers. But I'm like, bro, in Shang-Chi, one of the post-credit scenes was him on a fucking video call with the rest of the Avengers, and literally fucking Bruce at the end of the call says, welcome to the circus. I'm like, they video call each other. Like, they're a phone call away. What do you mean the Avengers are broken
Right.
up? Like, it's shit. This is what I'm fucking talking about, man. Y'all can't even get this shit right.
Well, they had to say that because one of the main things, another spoiler alert, one of the main things is that Thunderbolt Ross wants to get the Avengers back together, and now Sam's going to lead that. Um, I, and so that's why they put that in there, and
Because
it's
somebody
just
else says it too. They're like, the Avengers isn't around anymore.
yeah, and it's just like, well, they're around. Like, pick up the phone. If a giant alien spacecraft showed up, best believe they're
Yeah,
all
man.
suiting up.
Like, and I'm not saying like it comes to the problem a lot of people had during Phase 2. Like, one of the big complaints I heard about Winter Soldier is, why didn't Tony show up when there's helicarriers falling from the sky? And they kind of remedied that in Phase 3, where they had, Thor Ragnarok, where it's a team up movie, Civil War, where it's a team up movie, where they were starting to have team up movies. That's the problem. It's like,
Right.
when you have big events like this, like, somebody's gonna show up. You know what I mean? Like, you got,
Right.
and this brings me to my other point. We've now introduced across TV shows and movies so many new characters, and it's hard to keep up with all these characters, as well as dealing with people whose status quo have changed, like Sam now going from Falcon to Captain America, or having Captain Marvel be out there. We're still dealing with people who are held over from the previous iterations, like Hulk. We're still dealing with Hulk. You guys really got to do this like you did the first 3 phases, where you introduce Phase 4, we introduce our main heroes. Phase 5, continue their stories. And now in Phase 6, we should be on their third movies paying this shit off. And instead, it's like,
Right.
the next movie's Thunderbolts, where we're like, oh, we're assembling all the bad guys from all these movies from 15 years beforehand. I'm like, man, there's too much fucking shit going on. So when Secret Wars rolls around, it's going to be like 200 motherfuckers on the Avengers.
Yeah. And let's not forget that all of the fallout from Secret
Yeah.
Invasion, none of that plays into any of this.
They recently said Skrulls are going to go back to being good guys. That's
Okay.
what I'm saying, man. It comes to a point where not only are we all burnt out, but now there's just continuity issues across the board for all this. Like, they keep mentioning Ant-Man, and every time they mention Ant-Man, because of the continuity issues, the first thing I thought was, where's Martin Donovan? Homie's been out in the wild. He was a bad guy in the first Ant-Man movie. Homie's been out in the wild now for 10 years with PIM particles. That's a big deal.
Yeah.
Like, they
100%.
didn't want Yellow Jacket getting the PIM particles. This dude has them.
Yeah. And this guy is honestly much more evil than
Yeah,
Corey
because
Stahl's
he
character
used to
was.
work for S.H.I.E.L.D., so he knows the ins and outs of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah. And if you're going to have something this big, you have to wrap up.
Yeah,
all
you
of
have to
these
have a
loose ends.
Bible, like a story Bible. Like that.
Yeah.
We give shit to other things where they have loose ends that are just like, oh, okay. Like, somebody said this
Right.
should have been called Captain America Loose Ends because it's a Hulk movie starring Captain America finally paying off shit that was set up over 15 years ago in the Incredible Hulk, and also wrapping up Eternals because of Timu. And it's just like, I get where you're coming from. I don't feel that way, but like, it's a mess. Like, they're trying to, like, even politically, it's a mess because they're trying to both sides it. And honestly, they need to pick a side and make their message politically a little more clear. Because at least they did that in Winter Soldier.
Right.
Winter Soldier is an anti-fascist
they're-
movie. Like, it's an anti-government movie.
And like they're playing it safe because they haven't had any really big hits since.
Well, this one's gonna make mad money because the tracking just came out. They're saying it's gonna open to 95 to 98 this weekend, and then 200 worldwide.
Good. Like, I don't wish for this to fail. I just want the next Captain America to be better.
It literally is the Marvels, where you're just like, walking out the Marvels, I was like, damn, bro, Nia DaCosta got held back, and you can clearly see. And I understand why. She said on the press tour, she's like, yeah, this is a Kevin Feige movie. That's the same thing here. It's like, I don't know if Julius Ona was held back or not, but something was being held back, and you could feel it. You could feel this movie trying to break out of the constraints that it's forced into, and it sucks.
Like, all of the pieces are there. All of the pieces are right there. I would have loved to have seen the original script.
Yeah.
Like the one
that
they started with.
So the first two writers were Malcolm Spellman and Dallin Munson. They wrote, Malcolm Spellman was the showrunner on Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and Dallin Munson was a writer on that show. So yeah, I would like to see what they did before the writers come in, because even the story by credit, it's them two and a third person. So you have three people on the story, and this brings me to my other point. The best MCU movies have at most two writers, and it's usually a writing duo, or it was somebody who did a first draft, like Zach Penn or Nicole Perlman, and then Josh Whedon came in, did all this cleanup on Avengers, or James Gunn came in and did all this cleanup on Guardians of the Galaxy because they saw the bones were there, but they did it to their sensibilities because they were also directing those. But like, even Avengers, it's only been two people, like Steven. It's that writing duo. I can't remember their names, but it's that writing duo. Like Christopher Yost and Stephen McFurley. Like, if you look at all your favorite ones, it's either one or two writers. Like Black Panther, Joe Robert Cole, he wrote the script. Ryan Coogler came in, cleaned it up. Them two came back and decided to work on the script together on Black Panther too, and I'm kind of like, Ryan, maybe you should try doing this alone next time.
And like, and to bounce off your point right there, um, if you have 6 writers on there, that's a fucking TV show, right? That's what this kind of feels.
It's the
like,
problem with all these Marvel
right?
movies. They look like TV.
Right. It's this honestly, this feels like TV because you have an entire writer's room worth of writers trying to make this script work when you had 2 people in the beginning who had a vision.
It literally falls into the problem of the first Captain America. Like, I like this a lot better than the first Captain America. Like, I think the first Captain America, they kind of whiffed it real bad. And to me, that's a Joe Johnson. It's a script problem, and it's also a Joe Johnson problem. But here, there's so much. It's so much better because there's so much shit I like. But also, it falls into the same traps where it's just a placeholder movie to let you know, here's Captain America. There's more things to come, better things in the next Avengers and beyond.
Yeah, and here, like, before anyone asks, there's only one post-credit scene.
We might as well just spoil the shit because it is a waste of your time to sit through these credits. Like, once the credits start rolling, you can just fucking leave. Also, there's been some reports I read last night. There's some reports going around about Kendrick doing a song for Captain America: Brave New World. That's false. They use an old song. They use "I" from "To Pimp a Butterfly." Right. There's no new song. So motherfuckers are already lying. Yeah, the post-credit scene, leaders, like, we might as well say, like, you know, nobody dies in this motherfucker. The bad guys go to the raft. I don't want to give away the one anything else about other than leader. So leader's in the raft. Sam goes to visit him. He's just like gloating for some reason too. Hey, it seems like your plan didn't work out. He's like, you forget, I'm smart. I see all the heroes. There's many worlds, many heroes across many universes. And then it just cuts to black. And I'm just like, bitch, we already know about the multiverse, man. Like, that shit was, what was the point of that? We know we're in the multiverse saga. I don't need to be reminded of the fucking multiverse every 2 seconds.
See, and you're actually even giving it more credit than it is. He doesn't even mention, like, other,
no,
like,
he says
other
planets. Worlds.
He says so he says the others.
No, I swear to God, he says other worlds.
Okay, all right, but it's just like, it's either multiverse or aliens.
I think it's the multiverse because I guarantee you they're gonna pull from What If and do, once we hit Secret Wars, multiversal Avengers like they did in What If.
Sure.
And you know what, man? Like, their best way, like, what I thought this was going to be, I thought it was going to be a post-credit scene where, you know, you see Bucky take the office and he becomes president, and Sam walks in and he's just like, yo, man, look, I know you're busy being president and all, but, like, I need your help. Help me rebuild the Avengers.
Honestly, that would have been fucking cool as shit.
Yeah.
That's a great.
Yeah, he's like, that's a great way. You use your power and influence. I'll use me being Captain America. We're rebuilding the Avengers.
Wow.
Because we don't.
Yeah,
we already know
fantastic.
About the multiverse. Yeah. Like, we know this. We fucking know this.
Right.
Like, we had a whole Doctor Strange movie. We had a whole fucking. The only movie y'all put out last year was Deadpool and Wolverine. That shit was all about that fucking multiverse. Slightly. Deadpool and Wolverine, much better version of Multiverse of Madness because they don't even really traverse the multiverse that much in that fucking movie.
Right.
I don't understand why you introduce a concept like the multiverse and don't explore it or exploit it other than to have cameos, right? Like, the best use of the multiverse has been Loki, and that's a TV show.
Yeah. Well, they had to pivot because they flinched when it came to Jonathan Majors.
You know what? Doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter because you're still doing this shit because now Doctor Doom is going to be pulling the strings for the multiverse. Doesn't fucking matter.
Right.
It
Yeah,
really
you're
doesn't
right.
fucking
You're right.
matter. Like, yo, it even the handling of the multiverse seems like Marvel's non-committed, and that's the problem. Like, a lot of this shit feels non-committed. Like, you know, we want to do it, but not really.
Right. Yeah, they want to please the fans, but they also
Y'all
want to make
went,
money.
and here's the thing: I wasn't too familiar with Thanos or the Infinity Saga, or the Infinity Gauntlet, or the Infinity Stones. Y'all went all in on that. Y'all got us to buy this and believe it, and just eat this shit for 10 years or 10 plus, because
Right.
it's 11 years because
The
of
f- the fallout.
because Endgame
You got the
came out.
blink and yeah.
Yeah, so it's 11 years. Like, you had us in your palms trying to eating this shit, and now you guys can't even do the same thing, which is fully invest, fully commit, uh, make us care, and just give us the one thing I will say about the first three phases. They worked as standalone movies, but also as a bigger piece to a whole. And now these either feel like, hey, we're setting up some other shit, or it's weightless and it's just like, oh, here's another episode, instead of it being
Right.
substantial.
Like right. And yeah, this doesn't feel like it connects to anything, which is a blessing and a curse.
But it doesn't feel like
You
it's
know,
here's
like
the thing: it is a standalone movie, and I appreciate that, but it also feels like there's no weight to it, and it does feel like a placeholder. That's the problem. At least
yeah,
Winter
yeah,
Soldier, it didn't feel like a placeholder. Like, it was setting up shit that we were all excited to see, but it worked on its own.
yeah. Um, I really got like anything else I have to say
I'll
is
be
going to
real
be
with you, like,
nitpicking. Yeah,
I wish they would learn how to do a proper opening shot and a proper closing shot, because, like, this goes back to the Marvels too. Opening shot, the villain just walks in the frame, and you're just like, oh, there's something before this that they clearly cut, but where we got a
yeah,
better
yeah.
introduction to this
Uh,
character, and this too, it's just like, it just abruptly stops at the end. I was like, oh, we're not gonna get like a nice ending shot, bro. It's just gonna cut off in this this moment.
right. And before we leave, I hated how they kept the leader obscured, right, for the first half of the movie, but then he's kind of unceremoniously introduced, right, like revealed, and it's like, all right, so you do all this work to mask him in shadow so we don't get uh the the full vision of him, and then when you do introduce him, it's sort of like, oh, here he is. There's no
This is the
build up to it.
problem of them not doing a proper Hulk movie. You know what I'm saying? Like, the rumor is they're doing World
Right.
War Hulk, and I'm just like, you know, no, because that's a post-apocalypse story. Number one. Number two, now you have leader. You're bringing back Betty, which shame on them for that de-aging. Like, that's fucking terrible. And we got Harrison Ford, and, like, yo, I love William Hurt, but Harrison Ford took Thunderbolt to a new fucking level, and I really enjoyed his portrayal of Thunderbolt Ross. This, like, you've now run into the problem of you guys not making a Hulk movie. That's the only reason why Mark Ruffalo said he's sticking around. He's like, I want my Hulk movie. I want it, and
Right.
I think the fans earned it. And I do want to see
100%.
Mark Ruffalo move on and be the Mark Ruffalo he was before the MCU. But damn, bro, like, give Hulk his own movie. Like, I know y'all got the rights.
Well, I mean, they finally have the rights. I mean, I think that's the only reason they had to have in Thor they put Hulk in there, is because I think Hulk can only be the way the rights worked. He could only be on
Yeah,
screen with
another hero,
another
because they still
another
owned
hero. But
Universal still owned the distribution rights, but I think the distribution rights expired right around the time of Endgame. Or it was a little after Shang-Chi. I know that much. Like once it hit Shang-Chi, like they had those rights back.
Right. So just, and I know Hulk is expensive. I know, the CGI behind Hulk is got to cost
Who
you
gives a shit?
some money,
This movie
but
cost 180 $80 million, and you had a Red Hulk in here.
right, you'll make it back.
Also,
Believe me.
kind of cheap for a Marvel movie, and I mean that in a good way.
Yeah. Well, you don't have Robert Downey Jr. in there.
That brings me to my other point. Like, fucking Secret Invasion was such a bad fucking whiff that now Armor Wars is gonna be the first movie post Secret Wars. I was like, damn, bro, we're not gonna see Rhodey in his own movie till Phase 7. Like
Yeah.
Don Cheadle's gonna be like
Right.
fucking 60, man.
Although maybe the de-aging
Yeah,
will
no,
get
but
better by then.
you can de-age, as the Irishman showed, you can de-age somebody, but you can't de-age movements. Because you're still an
Yeah.
80-year-old trying to move like a 30-year-old. And like when Robert De Niro was beating the shit out of that dude in the gutter in front of the flower store, I'm like, that's an 80-year-old man beating up a man, not no 30-year-old. Okay, so I forgot to talk about this. I got to attend a press conference for this movie. No offense to Disney. Thank you for the invite. It was cool getting to talk to Harrison Ford. It was cool seeing everybody very excited for this movie. But I don't really know what to say about this press conference because it was basically press notes.
Right.
Just being spoken by the actors, the studio head and the director, and the producer, because Nate Moore was there. And like again, I reiterate this. Nate, please don't leave. Like stay like damn. Because all of Marvel's losing their producers. Like Victoria Alonso, like the fact that she's gone, now Nate's gone. I'm like, yo, nah, man. Yo, the wheel can't.
Good for them, but also
The wheel cannot just turn under Feige, bro. Because Jesus Christ. Yeah, I don't really know what to say about this press conference because there's really, no offense, nothing substantial to really talk about other than, I guess, what was said in this press conference has been said since they started making this movie, and people have been asking these people about it, which is like Harrison Ford saying, like, I saw people having fun and I wanted a piece of that. And he's like, it was an honor. Like the only other thing I got from that was like him saying it was an honor and a privilege to step up to William Hurt and pick up the mantle from William Hurt, but also make Thunderbolt Ross mine. And I'm like,
cool.
That would have been much more substantial after I'd seen the movie.
Right.
It's the same thing with Anthony Mackie, where they're asking him about Captain America. He's like, it's an honor and a privilege. And also, fuck all of y'all, because Chris Evans said the same thing as Anthony Mackie, which is that Captain America doesn't represent America. He represents the entire world. Like, he's supposed to be he is the MCU's version of Superman.
Right.
And y'all just took what Anthony Mackie said and twisted it because he's black.
Right. If it's all white, it's all right. And yeah, since we're talking about that, yeah, the way that Anthony Mackie's words were twisted really, really just offended me, right? Because even if I didn't have the reference point of Chris Evans saying it, like if you look at the intent of what he's saying, and if you look at the movies themselves, he's not saying anything that's off color,
right,
off the mark,
right.
He's Captain America just doesn't save Americans; he saves people.
Yeah,
right.
Like everybody, when they say red, white, and blue, they think of like when people say Superman, they think all American corn-fed red, white, and blue. And now we've had for the past 40 years kind of have to change it to like it ain't just America, bro. It's the entire world.
Right.
Like yep. look, American exceptionalism, and I put that in quotes because there ain't nothing really exceptional about America, but American exceptionalism is just some patriotic, jingoistic shit to give certain people emboldened to do awful things, honestly, and say awful things.
So, it's totally off subject, but I think everybody should read the book Mediocre. And I'm not gonna get too into it, but you can look it up, and you'll see what it's all about. And that's the kind of people who twist uh, fictional characters, mind you.
Yeah,
Uh,
like fuck y'all for making Anthony Mackie apologize. Like I'm sorry. Like I am a patriot. I'm an American, Captain America. You know, it's an honor and a privilege to play Captain America. It's like, bro, you shouldn't
right,
even
you shouldn't
have
have to
to
apologize.
apologize.
Right, you didn't say anything wrong. You What you said was uh, Captain America is for the people, all the people. Right?
Yeah,
That's essentially what you said.
I
If
mean
anyone,
we've had now well, minus because the first Avenger was literally an introduction to the idea of Captain America
right?
in the first place. So we've had Winter Soldier, Civil War, this movie, and 3 Captain America movies establishing that this nigga is a hero for the world. Especially in I wish they would have left that deleted scene in Age of Ultron there, because there's a deleted scene where they land in Sokovia and
Uh-huh.
Cap gets off the Quinjet and he sees graffiti of like anti Captain America graffiti, and he takes off his helmet and he looks at the A on the helmet and he just throws it back into the to the ship and keeps running.
Oh
I was like,
shit!
yeah, y'all needed that because that's why he's not wearing the helmet in the
Uh,
third act.
okay, fair. All right.
Yeah, like this is again why I say y'all can't even commit to small shit like that would enrichen your movie. Like I get it, like fucking Age of Ultron's already long and has a lot going on as is, but like that's a
I,
character moment that you needed.
I mean, the movie's already so long. What's that 30 seconds? You know?
Yeah. Again, like Marvel, y'all are starting outside of Black Panther. Y'all are really starting to prove y'all don't have any balls.
Right. And here's the thing: the comic books, along with horror movies, were always
Political.
political. Yeah.
Yeah. Come on, Superman was created during World War II by 2 Jewish dudes as their reaction to Nazis. Same reason why Captain America was created.
And X-Men are fucking black people.
Yeah,
The
and minorities.
minorities. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why a lot of X-Men now are gay. Like the past 20 years, they've been doing queer X-Men. And it's just like, well, I mean,
Right. You
y'all,
know.
it ain't. And before we get back on top, it ain't just gay people and trans people being persecuted. Now, a lot of people are trying to roll back interracial marriage. So,
That
meanwhile, the vice president is in an interracial marriage with an Indian woman.
Project 2025. He literally wrote down what he was gonna do. Right. And you didn't believe him, but now you see.
Yo, this motherfucker has people on the Supreme Court that he personally picked, and even they're just like, yeah, we're not gonna do that, bro.
Right, because it's illegal. Like half of these executive orders are illegal. But let's get back on topic because we'll talk about this shit for hours.
But yeah, like, I don't really have anything else to say about this press conference because again, like, there's nothing really here to talk about. It's literally like you guys can Google the press notes. Like press notes
Right.
are easy to find online. It was basically press notes as a press conference. Like, I've been to press conferences before, and I will say, like, no offense to Disney, this was like by far the weakest press conference I've ever attended. Like, I've gotten more out of the Creed press conference, the Sinners press conference, idea for you press conference where even I got to be on camera and ask questions. This thing here, I was just like, this is basically a Zoom meeting where it felt all like a PR stunt rather than an actual anything substantial. No offense to Disney. I'm sorry.
Right. You know,
and I appreciate the invite, but like,
and I get why it had to be so scripted, because just like when Anthony Mackie went off script, these fans are toxic. You know, they'll take any little thing, and they'll twist it, or they'll run so far with it. You know, so I get it, but also I'd like to see and hear some realness.
Yeah, this is because as is, I'm just like, okay,
yeah,
all right. Well, like, there's again, I'm getting nothing from this, y'all. Like, I've all the answers, all the questions, and all the answers you guys have been doing for like the past 2 years since this movie has been announced,
right?
And
they're not going to talk about the difficulties they had. They're not going to talk about the rewrites.
They're not going to talk about what they had to do to Shira Haas's character,
right?
Because that's the thing. I coming out of this, now seeing the movie, that's the question I really want to ask about is Shira Haas and her character, and how they really reconcile with that. And somebody did ask that in the press conference, but it was nothing substantial because A, touchy subject, but B, they're also trying to dance around it because nobody's seen the fucking movie.
Right. So, all right.
Look, there's episode 151. That's Captain America: Brave New World and the press conference.
We're the Film Blurs. I'm Brandon Norwood, and I'm the motherfucking protagonist.
I'm the protagonist.
I'm Jeff Stewart, a.k.a. He Who Remains.
Don't come at us. It's just fucking movies.
You've been listening to the Film Blurs podcast.
Man, I just love what you guys do, man.
I never miss an episode. It's the best.
It's my favorite podcast.
Follow Jeff on IG on MindFire XL and Brandon on Twitter at BJN Tweets.